So I've just done a video on my channel, key questions ahead of Errol Spence versus Kell Brook. For those of you guys who are not UK based tuning into this video, that fight is creating a huge amount of buzz over here, and it was interesting to sit down, look at a fight and work out what are the key areas of debate and the key factors that will realistically decide who wins that fight. And it kind of got me thinking about another fight that I'm massively looking forward to, and another fight that, like Brook versus Spence, is viewed as a massive 50-50. And for me, that's in the heavyweight division, Hughie Fury versus Joseph Parker. So I got thinking on 7 key questions. I didn't set out to find 7, but as I sat down and thought about it, I came up with 7 key questions that I believe will be very, very relevant in determining the outcome of this fight. So without further ado, factor or question number 1. Who wins the battle of the jab? For me, let's not overcomplicate things. These are 2 fighters who like to use their jab. These are the 2 fighters who actually have rather good jabs. And I think a lot of these rounds are going to be close, competitive rounds, really fought behind the jab. And realistically, after 2 or 3 rounds, if one of those fighters, Parker or Hughie Fury, has established a dominant jab, if it's clear one man in that ring has a dominant jab, I think it's highly likely that that person is the victor of the fight. I do honestly believe this is one of those fights where probably we'll be able to tell who's going to win the fight within the first 2 or 3 rounds. And I think one of the deciding factors behind that really is going to be who wins the early battle of the jab, whose jab is most accurate, whose jab is landing, scoring points, who's able to judge the reins better early on. So for me, key question number 1, who wins the battle of the jab? Key question number 2, can Hughie Fury keep Joseph Parker off him? I get a lot of Kiwis tuning into my channel, and I massively appreciate the international support, but you wouldn't believe how many messages I get from Kiwis, how many Facebook messages, comments on the videos, tweets, emails, and people are telling me Hughie Fury just doesn't have the power. Joseph Parker's just going to walk straight through him. They're telling me that Hughie's got a good jab, but it's such a light jab that Joseph Parker's just going to be inside his jab and, beating him up early on in the fight. Me personally, I strongly disagree. And for me, the question of can Hughie Fury keep Joseph Parker off him is a very, very big one. And I suspect it's one that Hughie Fury will be able to keep Joseph Parker off him, because keeping someone off you isn't just about a jab. It's about footwork. It's about speed. It's about measurement. It's about angles. It's all of those factors. Although I would admit that the strength and accuracy of a jab is obviously a key factor in keeping someone off you again. So for me, this isn't really, I don't necessarily think Hughie Fury is going to have problems keeping Joseph Parker at range. But the amount of people who seem to think it's just an absolute no-brainer that Hughie Fury will get walked through and Joseph Parker will be inside his jab and on him, within seconds, I think it becomes a key question, because it's clear, whatever my opinion, whatever your opinion, there's a lot of debate as to that. So, point number 2, can Hughie Fury keep Joseph Parker off him? And point number 3, and this is another one that I've noticed peddled by New Zealand fans on a fairly regular basis, I must say. There's the suggestion that Joseph Parker is better against tall men. It's certainly something he's made out himself. I suspect that's incorrect. I really do. I know he's fought Dimitrenko, I know he's fought Daniel Martz, and I know he's destroyed those kind of guys. But let's be honest, they're tall men, but they're not very good tall men. Hughie Fury is a very good tall man who uses his size very differently to those kind of guys. A good tall man fights in a very, very different way to Alexander Dimitrenko. So, Parker, for me, is a guy who is actually best from range. I don't view Parker as an inside fighter. I don't view Parker as someone who is at his best in a ferocious phone booth style brawl. I view Parker as someone who is best when he's got a bit of space, a bit of distance, a bit of room to manoeuvre, and he can throw those quick-handed, flashy combinations that, have excellent, clean 1-2 punches in them. I believe it's going to be harder to implement that game against an elite tall guy who can move, who's got that natural distance due to their size, and who's got the ability to be outside of your range but be peppering you with their long range punches. So is Parker actually better against tall guys? I'm dubious. A lot of fans, especially New Zealand fans, seem to have completely bought into the suggestion that he is. So let's see. Let's see for real when he fights Hughie Fury. Point number 4. Can Hughie Fury live with Joseph Parker's power? Because I would acknowledge that Hughie Fury hasn't faced a puncher as big as Joseph Parker. Now, as Parker stepped up in levels, as he's fought the Cams and Ruizes of this world, his punching power seems to be slightly less than it was, against the journeyman as he was on his way up. What I'm getting at is Parker's clearly a hurtful puncher. He's clearly a good puncher. But he's one of those guys who maybe as he stepped up to something approaching world level, the power hasn't quite looked as devastating as it looked when he was going through the ranks. And that's no criticism of Parker. That's something that often happens in the sport. But Hughie Fury hasn't faced a puncher of Joseph Parker's power as far as I'm concerned. Whereas I believe Parker has faced people who probably hit as hard as Hughie Fury. So whilst Hughie has shown no punch resistance or durability problems whatsoever in his career to date, I would acknowledge that Joseph Parker at least offers something different from a power dynamic. And as a result, because Hughie Fury is untested against someone like that, I do think that's a key question in the lead up to this fight. Question number 5, location. Parker's won 2 close decisions in New Zealand. He got the nod over to Cam and he got the nod over Ruiz. On my opinion, he got the nod in those fights correctly. I narrowly scored the fight to Parker on both of those occasions. But they're controversial. People disagree. A lot of people believe Cam was successful in the first fight. A lot of people believe Ruiz was successful. I know the Furies have said they believe Ruiz actually won that fight. So I think location is very, very key. Clearly, Parker is an absolute legend in New Zealand. Clearly, he's got a huge support there. And perhaps that fan support and that crowd noise is a relevant factor in terms of the judging. And Parker getting the edge in close rounds. But I understand location's a question. There's some rumours of the fight being in Singapore. There's even some bizarre rumours of the fight being in the UK, which I find frankly ludicrous. Why on earth would the New Zealand promoters bid for a fight and pay all that money to win the purse bids only to bring the fight over to the UK? They'd almost be better off letting the UK promoters win the purse bids. So, I don't see that as realistic at all. But, let's see. Let's see if the fight is in New Zealand. So location's a key question and intimately linked to location. Question number 6, judging. Is this going to be a controversial fight on the scorecards? I do believe this is a fight that really has the potential to go the distance. I think Hughie Fury is evasive, elusive, and excellent defensively. I'm not sure Joseph Parker is going to be able to land on him as frequently. I'm also not sure that Hughie Fury is the thunderous puncher, in the context of the heavyweight division. So it doesn't surprise me whatsoever if this fight goes 12 rounds. So linked into the location, how will the fight be judged? Will there be controversy? Could this be a fight where, there's suggestions of a hometown decision? And I think that's a key question in the lead up to the fight. Number 7, will Peter Fury be allowed into New Zealand should the fight be held in New Zealand? There was an early fight in Tyson Fury's career when he fought Steve Cunningham in the States, and my understanding is Peter Fury wasn't allowed to stand in the corner, be in the corner for that fight because of convictions in the past. Now, I understand New Zealand has very strict law relating to, people with criminal convictions entering the country. So it could be a huge negative for Hughie Fury if his father and his trainer, Peter Fury, was unable to be in his corner for the fight. Peter Fury is an excellent cornerman, and to lose that knowledge, to lose that expertise, to lose that calmness in the corner will be a big blow, especially when Hughie's had that for, his entire professional career. And let's face it, the time Tyson Fury was without Peter Fury in his corner, it was a far less disciplined and far less professional performance against Steve Cunningham. You know, when we've seen Peter Fury with Tyson Fury, we've seen disciplined boxing from Tyson Fury, like we saw in the Klitschko fight, the Chisora fight, the Christian Hamer fight, etc. But Tyson Fury lacked that without Peter Fury in his corner for the Cunningham fight. So is it at all possible that Hughie Fury could be detrimentally affected, if Peter Fury isn't in his corner? And I do think that's a key question to ask. So just to reiterate, who wins the battle of the jabs? Can Hughie Fury keep Joseph Parker off him? Is Parker really better against tall guys? Can Hughie Fury live with Joseph Parker's power? What's the location of the fight? Will the judging be controversial? And will Peter Fury allowed to be in the corner? For me, 7 questions, 7 key questions in determining the outcome of this fight. I'm massively looking forward to it. Let me know your thoughts on those 7 questions in the comments below. Perhaps you think you know the answer to one of the 7, or all of the 7. Leave them in the comments section below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you come up with any key questions ahead of this fight that I've missed. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't subscribed before, please do take the time to hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be covering this fight all the way up to the build-up and to the fight itself, obviously. So we'll be massively keen for you to subscribe so you can check out my other stuff en route. And if you've enjoyed this video, do take the time to hit the thumbs up button. Helps me massively with the visibility of this video and with the channel in general. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. As always, much appreciated at my end.